Pop Culture Pastor.
So, Cody, is Macho Nacho a real place? Is that
I
a real
hope
thing?
so.
I mean, it is in my dreams. I know that. But I just think that Macho Nacho, if it's not real, it should totally be real. It's one of those things where I'm like, oh, we live in a small town in Kansas. Is that something we're missing out on? Did we get jobbed out of Macho Nachos?
There's a Macho Nachos in Arlington, Texas, Eureka, Missouri, and Morristown, New Jersey.
So that doesn't sound like it's a real chain, though. That maybe they just
The
random people
logo
named that
for
thing?
the
Oh,
Texas one looks like
they're similar?
looks like it.
Okay. Maybe it's a real place. I don't know. That was the focal point of the episode for me, and we're all done here.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us. No. We are here. This is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs. We're watching Last of Us.
Not to be confused with tagalongs, which are a cookie.
Girl Scout cookies. Maybe one of the best ones. Underrated, the tagalongs. But they don't call them that anymore.
Well, I
They did
still do.
Didn't they do away with the names? It was weird. Now they're just peanut butter patties.
Well, it's a tagalong.
I need some clarification from the Girl Scouts of America on why they can't use tagalongs anymore, or the names. Because all those cookies had names.
Yeah. One of them was offensive.
Do-si-dos. What? Was it? Really?
Not the Dositos.
Which one was offensive? You can't even say it?
So offensive.
Thin Mints? Was it Thin Mints?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. You were just joking around. All right. Anyways. Yeah. So you've stumbled upon, hopefully you're just listening to watch-alongs because you're watching Last of Us along with us and you know exactly what you're getting into. If you've just stumbled onto this particular pod and you're not watching Last of Us and you're going to, stop now because we're about to spoil episode 7.
Are we that far in the show? I thought we were only on episode 6.
No.
Is this one 7?
I think this is 7.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Neato Burrito.
Now you're making me question my thoughts, and I might need to look that up. Yeah, this is episode 7, Cody.
I know nothing. I'm just here.
Okay, yes. So we're here to talk about Last of Us episode 7. If you haven't seen it and you're going to watch it later, don't listen to this because we're going to spoil this.
All the spoils.
And it was a pretty good episode.
It was a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, okay. Real talk question. When you know there's this flashback episode coming, are you looking forward to that or are you kind of disappointed?
So it depends on who the main actors are, I guess. Because when I knew Nick Offerman was going to be the focal point of the first flashback episode, I'm like, okay, I'm down for this. And then as long as an episode has a lot of Pedro Pascal, I feel good. But I knew Pedro wasn't going to be in this episode that much. Mm-hmm. And so I was anxious.
Yeah, okay. So that's interesting. That's different for me because I would say I felt the same way when I saw the Next Time On's last week and I knew this was going to be a flashback episode for Ellie's character. My excitement level went down. Mm-hmm. But I'm not basing it on actors and actresses because she's a great actress. Mm-hmm. And in this episode, she was. We'll get to that. But I get less excited because I think I'm here for the main story. I want to know what's going to happen because this is very Game of Thrones ish. You have this whole viewing crowd that knows what's happening and knows what's likely to happen because in a lot of ways they're sticking apparently close to the video game story, I'm told.
Yeah.
And then there's people like me who I have no idea and I don't really want to know. I'm just kind of along for the ride.
Don't spoil it.
And so the way the last episode ended with our man Joel looking like he's about to die and then being kind of hinted at that this was going to be a flashback episode. I was like, you're going to leave me hanging and I don't want to do that. I was wrong. Man, I loved this episode. It was so good. in a lot of ways. So let's just talk about it. So the episode starts off with, where we kind of left off, just this desperate situation.
Yes.
Joel's bleeding out, and Ellie has dragged him with the help of the horse to some random house.
As one does.
Presumably in eastern Colorado somewhere. And she is, desperately trying to get him to keep his hand there, stop the bleeding, right? And they have this there's this moment where he's like, go back, get back to Tommy.
And I was just like, you stay with Pedro and you help him.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it. I mean, again, in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's no way he dies right now. Because that would have been, if that happened in the game, I'd have heard about it. Right? Everybody would have been talking about it.
From what I've been told, he dies like 100 times in the game. That's what I've been told.
Y'all need to get better at video games, apparently, is what I'm getting. But yeah, I've seen the memes. By the way, this show is meme-tastic.
It is.
The memes from last week's episode of Joel having his panic attacks, so much fun. I had to join in.
Anyone should, really.
Mine was like me after I climb up a long flight of stairs, and then all the Joel panic attacks.
It's accurate.
So many good memes, but the memes about, I remember Joel dying a lot more when I played this game. Those memes are all fantastic. So like in the back of my head, I'm like, he's not dying. I know that. And yet I'm in there and I was like the same way. I'm almost yelling at the screen, like, don't you leave him. Don't you leave him. And then it kind of beautifully, they use that scene to kind of beautifully segue back into this flashback of Ellie. And we find her, mixing in, dealing with bullies like a lot of teen girls do.
Oh, it was just like Mean Girls, but zombie apocalypse style.
Yeah, it was all great. And we get all this development on Ellie. And we're finding out that Ellie is special, not just because of whatever in her is that's making her immune from the bite, but she's special because she's just got an intellect and a character and just gifts.
And an Aha cassette tape.
She's got great taste in everything.
So I texted you as I'm watching this, and I'm like, Aha's greatest hits. That should be singular, amigo.
Why do you gotta hate? Why do you gotta hate? Also, true story. Yeah, that was confusing, wasn't it?
Although, great song. Phenomenal song.
It is. Okay, let's take a little side trip here. If I told you could be a musician, that God would come down on high and just gift you the musical ability to create music. But I also told you that you were not, it was going to be flash. It was going to be lightning in a bottle. You'd be big for 1 year and then you'd kind of just fall off the face of the earth. You would not be known anymore, but there would be, your one song would live on, like sort of Rick Astley type.
Yes.
If I told you that, but like you would die later in your life, not adored by millions of fans, you would just be a one-hit wonder and forgotten to time. Would you take that?
Yes.
Absolutely, you would take that.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm getting royalties off that song.
Yeah, but not even, okay, so the royalties, yes. But isn't it like you created a song that lives on forever in like the human zeitgeist? Like Rick Astley, that dude has handled that so well. And of course, his face is like Rick rolled and all the memes and stuff. But like, so like, let's go back to Aha for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Do you even know what Aha, anyone in that band looks like?
Not since that music video.
Yeah, but even then it was like cartoon. Like it was drawings. It wasn't. What I'm saying is those dudes could walk past you on the street and you wouldn't even know.
No.
You'd have no idea. And yet that song, everybody knows that song.
Although I will say, members of Kiss without their makeup on, I would only recognize Gene Simmons.
Oh, man. Well, everyone would. He is. Look, I can say this because he's got a beautiful wife and, a family and kids, but that dude is ugly as sin. That dude was not blessed with, and he'd probably tell you that. He's an interesting dude. Have you ever listened to him? I mean that in a totally loving way. I love Gene Simmons, but woof. And I'm not an attractive dude either, so I can say that. But he's scary.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that was one of the biggest rock bands in the world for many years. And again, like, and they even had a phase where they went without their makeup. And again, I would still be like, I don't know who you guys are. Cut your hair, you hippies.
Name one song Kiss sang.
Beth. You didn't even expect me to go to Beth.
Is that a real song?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Detroit Rock City. I'm going off.
All right, I'll make it harder. Name one good song Kiss sang.
I Want to Rock and Roll All Night.
Yeah, that's probably it. I'll let that be in the classification of good songs.
Beth's good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We went off topic again. So we go into this flashback of Ellie's character where she's getting bullied. She gets into a fight. She meets with what was the guy's name? Kwong.
Yes.
Yeah. And who's like kind of. So it's a beautiful scene because it gives us this exposition on her specialness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like, man, first of all, this dude, whoever played that guy in his one scene, I mean, he wins it because he's there for exposition, but also he gives this beautiful kind of like I'm the hardcore teacher guy, but now I'm doing I'm just disappointed because you have so much potential shtick, and it works, man. By the end of that scene, you're just like, man, she's special. Everyone sees it. She's special. And so he kind of convinces her to, she's at least thinking about like taking this other path where she's like, not the kid who's always causing trouble and being snarky, but maybe is taking advantage of her gifts and trying to actually make something of her life in the Fedra world.
Yeah.
And so she goes back to her empty room where we see an empty bed in her room. So it's clear that has a roommate and friend that she's missing. And soon enough, we meet that friend as she sneaks back in. There's the whole scene of her coming back. And then they're clearly friends. She has left her to join the Fireflies. None of this is really important.
Yeah.
It's just important to know that they were close, that they were best friends.
And I mean, Ellie had been hinting at like she had lost some close people to her in the past, and
it's fair to say she's the most important person in her world.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's dealing with all that. Now she's back, but she's going to take her out on like this. What we find out is this one last night together.
Yes.
Okay. And first of all, it's a flashback. This is going to end horribly. I think that's what we're learning about Last of Us.
It is heartbreaking. Rest in peace, Henry.
Now we have to talk about this because it's an issue. Because people are complaining. There's all this. The political conversation always takes over. There is a kiss at some point.
Yes.
Where clearly Ellie has feelings for this person. And
Riley is her name.
Riley. And I just want to stop right here and say, like, this is our fault because we always place sexual things on everything.
Uh-huh.
We tend to our mind puts that on the situation. I want you to imagine their world where she's alone. And this is the only friend in her life. This is the only person she's had in her life that cares anything about her. And tell me she wouldn't be confused with her feelings of love, which are earned.
So when this scene first happens, I have a different reason, I guess, for being upset. Okay. And it goes with every show that has teens in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because of what the aftermath usually is. Although this doesn't really get to that level, but I'm going to use the phrase an over-sexualized emphasis on teens, and then we make them act it out on screen, which then like years later, you hear stories of, well, when I was a teen, they made me do this and I didn't want to. Like, I didn't want to kiss this person.
Oh, you're talking about the actors and actresses in general.
And
okay.
So
now these actors aren't teens though.
Yeah. So I'm also just like, but that whole character that we have to like always make them overly sexualized.
Yeah. To be clear,
although they just lightly peck and that's it.
Yeah, to be clear, I do find it insulting that Hollywood does this, where what you're talking about, where, well, of course they're gonna, because they're teens, their characters are teens, it's gonna be in a over sexualized. It's almost as if Hollywood doesn't believe that teenagers knew anything about platonic love. Like, I had friends that I loved and it wasn't physical, right?
Yeah.
I had girls that were friends that I would have died for. I loved them, that it wasn't like that. It wasn't physical. So it's kind of insulting on some level that Hollywood does this. But in this situation, all I'm saying is, in this situation, it sort of makes sense. She's completely alone in the world. She has this one person who's in her life who cares about her. Of course, there's affection there, right?
Yeah.
And I can see it. I can go along with it. It's fine.
Yeah, I wasn't offended that it happened or anything like that. It was just more of, oh, of course we got to go here.
But I feel like it's in the conversation, so we had to talk about it. Now we're done talking about it, and now we can move on.
Yes.
Because the episode is beautiful. And what happens is she takes her to this shopping mall where she's been stationed by the Fireflies, we later find out.
Why do the Fireflies get all the cool hangouts?
The QZ, the Fedra has turned on areas of the city with power as they get ready to expand, and the mall happens to be on this grid. And what follows is a play on Ellie's love of nostalgia. So Ellie, like, first of all, out of any character of any show I'm currently watching or have watched recently, Ellie could be a geek of the round table. She has a love for geek culture, and especially nostalgic geek culture.
Yeah.
Because that's all they have. They don't have geek culture anymore. They've been 20 years in the apocalypse.
I mean, she had a Mortal Kombat poster.
Oh, man.
In her bedroom.
And on that level, this episode is amazing. This episode, it's hitting on all the nostalgia heartstrings. And then when you think you're about to overload on that, it hits you with like the actual emotional resonance of their relationship and it coming to an end. Spoilers. So the mall stuff is all great. Right from the beginning, they turn on the power, they venture out into the mall, and this leads me to a brand new segment on the show. You ready for this?
Okay.
It's time for that. This reminds me of.
Okay.
This reminds me of. Maybe we'll get some real theme music.
I can't help you with that.
So she gets on the escalator, which she has no idea what it is. And then she acts like a little kid on an escalator. And this reminds me of every time I was ever on an escalator as a kid.
Okay, so I never did any of that on an escalator as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
You were repressed, my man.
Like, I would just run down as it was going down.
Okay, yeah, running down, running up, sitting on the thing, the arm conveyor. I did it all, man. But the actress plays that Bella Ramsey plays that so wonderfully. Like, she does that wonderfully, where she's got that like giggly excitement of like, you don't remember that feeling?
I mean, I remember that feeling, but not with escalators.
And I also had the feeling of like, this is very 80s Parent, by the way. Yo, that escalators hasn't been used in like 20 years. You better be careful. That thing going to eat you up at the
It would.
Be careful on that escalator, kid. We've heard stories, which I don't think were ever true. We just heard made up urban legends.
I did get my shoelace stuck in an escalator once.
And you're alive to tell the tale.
I am.
So they go down the escalator. She's got all these special trips, one of which is a carousel, which Cody, the carousel scene was absolutely amazing. I can't remember. It's The Cure. It starts playing The Cure's Just Like Heaven.
Nice.
I think it's The Cure. But it's an 80s song. That 80s song. And it's like, dude, when that song started playing on the carousel and they're lost in that moment, and it was just like that, this is perfect. Whoever is picking the music out for this is just that was perfection. This episode, in many ways, the beats of it were perfection. The pacing.
So
the dread is ratcheting up the entire time they're in the mall when you're getting this nostalgia fix. It was the perfect combination of I'm loving everything I'm seeing, and I'm also, that's making me dread what's about to happen. Did you not feel the same way?
No.
Okay, you weren't into this episode.
I liked the episode. I liked it a lot, but it wasn't like, I don't even know if it's a top 5 episode.
Wow.
And so...
Wow. Okay. Hey, that's, it's valid.
Like so they do a good job at times with the tension of her friend Riley being a Firefly and her being very anti-Firefly at this moment. Mm-hmm. But then like they quickly get over it. And it's like, oh, that's not a big deal anymore until it is a big deal later on in the mall. But like, that's not a big deal.
Honestly, we talked a little bit about this, I think on a few shows ago or whatever. This show, like the exposition for the plot, not interesting to me in this episode. What was really great was these human moments. Mm-hmm. And like, I think these flashback shows, we talked about why Lost wasn't about an island, even though that's what they tried to make you think. And many people fell for that. And that's why they were disappointed in the end. But it was about these characters, about these people.
It was all a dream.
And so on this episode, I got lost in that. I got lost in these people. And the exposition for the plot was the parts I was like, okay, whatever, let's move on.
So I'm very much into the plot.
I'm very much into the plot too. I'm not saying I'm not into it. I just told you at the beginning, that's what I'm really into.
Like I
thought I was into.
I'm devastated with like they didn't go to a Hot Topic or a Spencer's. That's the thing. No.
I thought they went into a Spencer's sort of briefly. Was it not? They just didn't specify. I could have swore they went into a Spencer's and then maybe they didn't have the rights to use the name, so they didn't make it specific. Before the Halloween store.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I don't know that.
Like, I wanted either them to pick out like retro band shirts of like the artist flipping off people, because that's what Hot Topic has, is like a wall of just middle fingers, and then Spencer's has the gross part in the back that you don't go in the back.
They absolutely could have played up the mall angle more. Like the fact that there's no Sparrow, you don't see a Sparrow or a Hot Topic or a Spencer Gifts, like specifically, is sort of atrocious. And maybe an Orange Julius.
Because, 2003 mall scene, because that's when the pandemic breaks out. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a Hot Topic in Spencer's, and that's the cat's pajamas of the mall.
And what was that? Annie's, whatever, the pretzel place.
Yeah,
the mid mall autonomous unit for mid mall snacking. Okay, so I need to talk about one more scene with the nostalgia.
Okay.
Take a still frame of the camera shot of them standing in front of the arcade, just looking at the arcade, and print it and hang it in the dang Louvre. That was an amazing shot. It gave me all the feels. It put me right back into that time where arcades were just it, man. I listen, I'm not even joking. I teared up.
I did not.
I teared up at that scene because I was like, I felt her like thrill. Like, dude, I can't explain it. Going to the arcade, even as a teenager, like on a Friday or Saturday night with my friends, getting ready to walk into the arcade still gave me the chills, still gave me the goosebumps, the excitement. And when they're standing there looking at that and they're just in awe, I was like, man, I feel this. I feel this so much. I teared up a little bit, and I thought the arcade scene just in general was great. While they were ratcheting up the dread, by the way, because I'm like, yeah, you play that game. And at the same time, I'm like, not so loud.
She goes to the racing game, and I'm like, I played that one.
Daytona USA. Yeah, they were great. The Attack from Mars, the pinball game. That's a well-known pinball game. Great game. You see Tetris, which there was a Tetris console arcade game. And Daytona USA, which was a huge game. I loved that game. I was really good at it.
And then I'm like, you settled for Raiden on Mortal Kombat? Like, that's your go-to?
Well, forgive them. They know not what they do. She didn't know. Yeah, so the arcade scene was great. Anyways, it progresses the way you would think. They're getting close. They understand. The friend. What was the friend's name again?
Riley.
That's the only problem with these flashback characters we get for one episode. I don't feel real invested on knowing them. But Riley says they're sending me to Atlanta. There's anger at first, and she comes back, and that's when they get attacked by.
And also, she finds pipe bombs. Yeah. That's what.
All
triggers it.
That's fine. We know that the audience knows the Fireflies aren't perfect either. Like, there's no good side here. I think the audience has kind of been fully, prepared for that. So all of that's just filler for me. I'm like, yeah, we already knew this. We knew that the Fireflies aren't, holy.
I had them uplifted on a pedestal.
I don't know why you got to be so argumentative. I'm going to throw something at you. But yeah, so we get this thing. There's heartbreak and then at the end, she convinces her to stay, right? And that's when the kiss happens.
Yes.
She convinces her to stay, and she says, like, we'll make it work. However, clearly they're planning on running away together. That's the only way that works, right?
And in the real world, they're dying.
Then the attack happens.
Yeah.
And they both get bit.
My issue with this, though. Okay, so we're back with the zombie creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I do like this version of zombie where, like, there's a fungus and it's trying to find hosts to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, even if you have fungi that are controlling your brain, your muscles are going to atrophy and you're not going to move. And it's clear that thing's been there forever. And then all of a sudden it is taking off like Usain Bolt and it is running down these kids. Yeah,
it does make me wonder whether we're ever going to get any sort of any development on that to explain whether they're just going to leave it up to our suspending our own disbelief, or whether they're actually ever going to get scientific and tell us why. Because they haven't really.
Oh, yeah.
That's largely still a mystery on why the fungus can make, like, the big bloated one. Okay, so there's clearly something about the fungus that makes that body stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know if they'll ever fill us in on that. Is that a big sticking point for you? Do you think they need to fill us in on that?
I mean,
the science of that?
It would be cool to have, like, oh, this is a mutated fungus that is now creating these Hulk behemoth zombies.
I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy some explanation, but
it's not vital.
Yeah, I'm also one of them people. I'm like, well, I can suspend my disbelief. I mean, it is based on a video game.
Mortal Kombat, the movie, is based on a video game.
Well, but this video game, I mean, whoever wrote this game is involved with doing the show. I mean, clearly, and they're doing some scenes from what I understand, beat for beat. So this dude's a good writer.
When they're in the picture booth,
yeah,
that is almost a scene for scene. Because I did see a still from the video game and one of the photos from the video game, and then one of the photos from it, and like the girls almost have the exact same hand positions and facial expressions.
I watched a YouTube video of a side-by-side, and they're even keeping his dialogue from the game. So this dude's a writer. I mean, this dude,
Yeah.
The guy that wrote the video game, he's no joke.
And I'll say, like, modern video games compared to, like, the video games I was playing as a kid, oh, yeah, they're a lot more detailed. They're a lot better story. There is actual legitimate content. So that comic book she's reading at the beginning, that is in the video game. And it's like something you can collect as you go along places. And I believe that they actually have written in like panels in the video game of what's actually in the comic.
Yeah. And so the episode concludes with both of them obviously weeping and being sad that they're both going to die.
Because they got bit.
They decide that they're not going to end it quickly, that they're going to turn into fungi zombies together. And that's where the flashback ends, which we, the audience, knows we get spared, but I'm sure we'll see it at some point.
Oh, yeah.
The heart-wrenching thing where she's going to have to kill her friend. When she turns and Ellie does not.
Yeah.
Because we know that that's a thing. So there's a heart-wrenching thing we don't see that I just assume we eventually will. Because, tear out our audience's heart. We go back to the present where this flashback inspires Ellie to fight for Joel. So she ransacks this house they're in. She finds thread and a needle. The needle's just wrapped up in the thread spool, which score. That was a little too convenient, but okay.
My wife and I are watching this, and she's a medical assistant, so she helps with like stitching up people and stuff.
Your wife is yelling at the screen like, pour some alcohol on that, do something.
Well, besides those sorts of things, she's also saying, do you know how sharp that needle would have to be to go through skin? And like how thick that yarn or string would have to be to...
Suspend your disbelief, Leah. Suspend it.
Yes.
The drama of the moment was pretty intense because Joel's in pain. She knows he's in pain, but she's like just getting it done. And you can see like Bella Ramsey does a great job of like the invigoration of life, like kind of coming into her in that moment.
Yeah.
Where she's like making a decision. I'm fighting for this person. And it was like, look, I loved it. I think this episode's great. We clearly know Joel's going to make it.
Allegedly.
And that's where the episode ends. Cody, is there any biblical stuff in this episode other than like, the stuff where we would die for a friend? We'd give our life for someone. I don't know. I don't know that I feel like there was something uttered by the friend at some point that was a biblical reference, but now I didn't write it down.
Yeah, I didn't either.
All right, let's move on. Who won the episode? Who's the winner of this episode?
Kwong.
He was great. Dude, he was like the microwave off the bench.
Yes.
Like you bring him in off the bench and he just starts filling 3-pointers.
You would have to go Kwong or Bella.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go Bella Ramsey just because it was a showcase episode for her.
Yes.
And I still, like, up to this point, I still, I find her magnetic and engaging, but I didn't really know the acting chops. Like, does she have it? And this episode, like, I'm not an acting expert, so I still can't definitively claim that, but she had me. I was in it. I was in her story.
I was heartbroken with the lack of Pedro. But the scenes he was in, he did great.
Who loses the episode? Who's the loser of this episode?
Bethany. Because Bethany ended up with like going into the emergency room hospital area with like 15 stitches or something. I don't know.
I'm going to go with Bethany. Yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah, the mean girl.
Try to imagine you're a struggling actress. You get a big part on a big show. Even though it's a bit part, it's a speaking part. I'm sure that's important.
It is.
To an actress who's up and coming. And you get this part and you play the bully, which, first of all, super like typecast. No one's going to remember you're acting as the bully because you're the bully. That seems super. I could play a bully. You just be a punk. Yeah, you're right. Whoever that actress is, we salute you.
You did your best.
Because you were probably super excited about getting a part on a big HBO series, and then they were like, you're the bully.
And you're going to get your lights knocked out.
You're going to get beat up by Bella Ramsey,
who was significantly shorter than she was.
A lot smaller. Like, if you're going to be that big, you better be able to back it up, Bethany.
Yeah.
Bethany just sounds like someone you're not going to want to like in a show, right?
Exactly.
Which is an affront to every real person named Bethany. I always think of that when people call people Karens too. Like, there are people in the world really named Karen. Do you not care about these people? All right. What do you rate the episode out of 10, Cody?
I mean, I'll give it a solid 7.
Really? Okay. Just a 7.
Yeah, it was good.
It's okay. Interesting.
Again, I didn't have it in my top 5 of episodes.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I really liked it.
I
like this episode.
It hit the nostalgia feels for you.
It did. The mall stuff was what really sold it for me. And in fact, this was the first episode where I was like, I need to watch this again. And so, yeah, I really want to watch the episode again. And a lot of it is the acting's great. And the mall stuff. I love that she's this kindred spirit for me. The Ellie character who is like super into nostalgia and geek things. The all the pop culture moments in this episode were fantastic. I loved the episode.
So in the preview for the next episode, I'm not going to spoil anything except.
Oh, we're going to have a lot to talk about, aren't we?
That evidently one of the guys that's in the group from the preview, he's the voice actor for Joel.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the guy in the beanie.
Yeah. Do we want to hint that there's Christians in the next episode, and we can already tell they're sufficiently evil?
It happens.
I go, man. We're gonna have a lot to talk about next week on next week's episode. Hey, we hope you're enjoying these the watch-alongs, and you're enjoying The Last of Us alongside us, and I hope you enjoy hearing us chat about each episode. Make sure and subscribe and rate the episodes and rate the pod and all that. Share us. We'll see you next time.